Hi, it's Rosa Collado with Casa Latina Social, and I am here today with Jay and Pete. They're both investors here in New York, and you want to watch the entire video because we're going to go over a specific deal where they made over 150,000. We're going to go over how they're getting deals in this very crazy competitive market here in New York, and so much more. So make sure you watch the entire video. So let's jump right into it. Jay, Pete, thank you so much for being here. I am so excited that you're both taking the time. I know you guys are very busy, so thank you for that. So I want to jump right into it. What made you both decide to start working in real estate, actually fixing and flipping properties?
Well, we actually got started in fix and flip by accident. So for the longest, I used to be a buy and hold guy. I was just buying properties, renting them out. And with the market shifting, that's what got me into like the fix and flip side. And it's in the potential of the high return, seeing the tangible result that we've been getting, and it got pretty appealing to me. And that's pretty much how we got in.
How about you, Jay? How did you start it? Because I know
Yeah,
that.
yeah, no, yeah, similar story as Pete. So for the longest, we really focused on buying and holding and renting and looking for growth in the long term and building, generational wealth. And at some point in time, the market really shifted where it didn't actually make sense to go ahead, or I should say, the BRRRR strategy, which is probably one of the strategies that are out there, which means you buy, you renovate, you refinance and you repeat with the intention of getting your money back out to sort of do it. So I think in the past couple of years, Pete and I probably had a few of those that were sitting and that we were hoping to use a burst strategy, and then we had money sort of stuck in there. So along the way, even before we got to the higher interest rates, we just realized like, hey, in order to grow your portfolio and to continue to get more rental properties, we needed to generate high levels of income, right? So one of the ways we can see a quick turnaround, and when I say quick, is that can be very subjective, but anywhere from 6 months to 12 months, we can turn around and we can increase our capital. And this way, it allow us to buy more. But then along the way, I think this was mid 2022, interest rate really didn't make sense for you to buy and hold unless you were getting a super awesome deal, or you were getting some type of special seller financing or something like that. So that kind of pushed us in there to be more focused on doing the fix and flips to generate the income.
That's great. I mean, what you guys started seeing is like, okay, the market is shifting. Instead of running and getting out of it or continue to do the same thing, you went ahead and started thinking, hey, how can we get more capital? And what's the best way to get more capital than real estate? Right. So, can you share with me the story from one of your more successful, profitable flip? And what did you get to learn from that? What made it so successful?
So the one that you sort of reference in your intro is basically a property that we picked up last July of 2023. So a part of it is just kind of identifying the opportunity to see the upside. So this was a property we purchased in Lake Grove for $375,000. However, it did come occupied, so we knew we had some um, leg work to do in the beginning, and we basically had to go through close this knowing that there'll be someone there, and we were very optimistic that we would do a cash for keys to get them out and then kind of move forward with getting this in there. But what we did identify is we're picking up a property for about 50 cents on the dollar. So that typically drives, when you look at that number, you're willing to sort of say we can roll the dice and know that even if time goes on, we are still well below that marker, that traditional rule of thumb of 70%. So now we're buying 50 cents on the dollar. So that's basically what happened. We sold it close to 700,000, and we were able to get these folks out. But listen, I'll let Pete chime in because he can add some more context to what we shared, our pains and stuff like that. So go ahead, Pete.
Oh yeah, it definitely wasn't an easy process. We did end up paying this guy, cash for keys, and the guy was, he was a nice guy. He's just, had a tough time in life, but everything ended up working out to our favor. We did get him out, and once we started renovation right away, and yeah, it turns out pretty well.
And this is one of the first time that we hear that somebody actually says, "Hey, I picked up a house with a tenant and it wasn't as crazy." And for those of you that don't know what cash for keys means, it means that you basically give that tenant money and then they give you the keys, but you actually do that when they're leaving. There's some people that give the cash to the tenant and they still stay there. So it's again cash for keys where they give you the keys and then you give them the money, not before that. So what are some of the key factors that you consider when you're choosing a property to flip? Is it the numbers that your bigger thing that you make sure that you're getting, 50 cents to the dollar, 70 cents for the dollar?
So
Yeah.
we do like to use, like the 70% rule. You know, a lot of, 70% of the after repaired value. And another thing that we focus on is the location. We always location matters. And having multiple exit strategy, if we don't end up selling it, we can either hold it as a rental. You have something else you could add, Jay?
Yeah, yeah, no, absolutely. So, definitely exactly what Pete said. I think the rule we try to follow is are we going to hit the 70% or are we going to beat the 70%? But what is hard to tell because you can run all the data you want, right? But part of this is intuition. You have to have a feel for the market, you have to have a feel for what's happening, and you have to have some level of experience on how you're going to do this, right? So I think it's really very beneficial to have a partner or to team up with someone because sometimes you may think everything is supporting and then what you may not know is that certain things are going to change within 6 months in this particular areas and things like that, right? So from a map perspective, the 70% rule, you should try not to break that rule unless you're super confident that time is on your side and you can do this faster than 6 months. But if you're going to go with the traditional, you got to stick with that rule. But the other part is that comes in is just knowing the market, having a feel, and really building up the ability to kind of have a little bit of an outlook on what's going to happen, right? So obviously, there's a bunch of data you can pull. You can have an agent do this, or you can really get familiar, which is really the best way to kind of figure out what you're doing is to do some really good analysis on how these things are going to work. But ultimately, that's some of the tips, and I'm sure there's a lot more that we're missing out on or to touch on this interview, but that's basically the core of it. It's sticking to the fundamentals of 70%, knowing the market, as Pete mentioned, having multiple strategies, right? So you can basically know that you can sell this, or you can turn it into a short-term rental, mid-term rental, or a long-term rental, and it will pay for itself and not cost you any money. And this way, and then the other part of that is even if you have to go the rental route, is to say, hey, can I get out into a long-term loan? Because a lot of the hard money loans and things like that we use, these loans are only good for 12 months. So you have to be able to understand all these different strategies and how they work and piece it together.
And
Not to
that's
tell, not to give you war or peace here, but yeah.
I mean, it sounds great, everything that you're saying. It's really important, like you said, getting those different strategy. And now that you mentioned what your rules are, which is great, how are you guys financing your project? Because a lot of people think, hey, I can just go to the bank and get a regular loan. And I know you guys are doing multiple properties at one. There are times where you're doing five, you're doing 10 in a month. How are you guys financing all these deals?
Sure. So we use a combination of our own money, we use private lenders, and we also use hard money lenders. And sometimes there's a blend. Sometimes we have all three of those things. And what do I mean by that? Where the portion that we have to put up, we either have some of our money and then we bring an investor on board that's putting up the remainder of this, and then the rest of it we're getting hard money. And then some of it is just completely private funding that we have. And then sometimes Pete and I, based on how risky the deal is and the appetite for the risk, right? So if we feel like that example we shared, that was basically just Peter and I, because it's very challenging to take an occupied property on to a lot of investors. So that's something that we kind of gauge and we do it, but it's different avenues. The main core of what we do is with Michael Young. I think his site is getbreadnow.com. So he actually probably do a great deal. About 90% of our hard money loan is through him.
Right? And he's also going to be at our event with Casa Latina Social on August 14th. So make sure that you guys register if you have not. which is great. Now, I did hear from you guys that you are checking so many different ways of how to get money. So it's not only focusing on one way. I like the fact that maybe when you started, because when you are starting new and you don't have a back end, or they don't see, especially with the hard lender, they want to see that you've done it in the past. If not, obviously the rates might go up a little bit higher. So that's why it's so important to partner together. So now that we're talking about partnership, what made you both decide to partner together and start this new business of fixing and flipping? If you can go into that, of what's the benefit of partnering up with somebody?
So, from my perspective, it's the ability to do more and to stretch your resources, and also to have the extra set of eyes. So sometimes you may see something, and then it's easy to tell someone, listen, you need to disconnect your emotions from what you're doing or the deal or whatever it is. But sometimes that becomes challenging when you're completely vested. But when you have someone, like, for example, Pete may bring a deal and he's in love with the deal, but then I'm like, all right, well, I see this, this, and this, and then you can add some level of clarity. But what it also do, it basically brings the two folks to have very different skill sets, and we help heighten each other, make each other better. But then we also are able to get more done in a shorter period of time and stay on top of things. It does become challenging, but obviously, just the experience, the ability to look at things that you may have overlooked, and just kind of the getting more done, right? So instead of, if I had to do it by myself, I think realistically I can probably do two deals simultaneously. Now we're having a partner and being able to build different teams, somebody that can stay on top of different things. I think right now we're managing 8 projects simultaneously, which, it's just a tremendous amount of work, but it's dynamic, exciting, keeps every day a little different, and gets your heart rate going. So all that good stuff. Yeah, Pete, what would you say, Pete?
No, absolutely. Like Jay said, having the two set of eyes, and sometimes I do find myself, falling in love with the property, then and just having that partner holding you accountable, telling this is about the numbers. Let's stick to our numbers and getting it done.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Partnership is one of the best things for sure. It could be one person that's very calculated and like to look at the numbers. Another one knows automatically, hey, this is how much it's going to cost to fix something, whether it's a bathroom or a kitchen. So having that partnership sometimes is very important. I mean, Jay, you just mentioned it. You can do so much more when you're together, right? That famous quote. You could go one way just by yourself, but you can go so much further with two people or more. So, how are you finding deals now in New York? Knowing that it's such a competitive market, especially here where everyone wants to fix and flip, where there's people saying, "Hey, you know what? I'll make $20,000 of a deal, $10,000." How are you guys finding deals now, especially when you're doing, 5 to 10 a month? That's a lot of deals that you guys have coming
Oh
around.
yeah.
How you find deals?
Absolutely. I mean, one of our main ways on fighting deals is a relationship. We have great relationships with agents that brings us deal, and how we always repay them back. We always give them the listing. We're on the MLS. Believe it or not, there's a lot of deals on the MLS, and we've done some off markets as well.
Yeah, it's just really building relationships. So one of the things, and I don't think this is the tip. This is just life lesson, right? So one of the things is that as you build these relationships, you have to be somebody that keeps your word. So Pete kind of mentions this on something before, where you have to be accountable. So a lot of times over the years, because we've purchased quite a few of rentals and things like that, we've done business with these agents before, so they know if we say, hey, we're going to buy something and we're going to close on it, we're not the kind of guys that are going to be playing games, and we're going to get it done, and we're going to get it done quickly. Typically we've even turned around and closed on a property in about nine business days, which is phenomenal, right? So I think as you build that reputation and you kind of repeat um, doing business with the same folks over and over, and not to say it's the same person all the time, it's a slew of people, but the word gets out there that we are serious buyers, we can commit and we can get the job done. And that's what really gives us the edge, because a lot of times somebody may come in and have a better, higher offer, but the agent is now thinking, hey, is this person really going to close, or are they going to just drag me out for 30 days and realize they can't get the financing or they can't get the funds? But they've dealt with us before, and they know that we're going to have skin in the game and we're going to close the deal. And not only that, there's a potential that they're going to be able to turn back around and also get another stated income from this property, because they're now going to be part of our transaction as we sell it and we move forward again. So all of those things. And then obviously we do off market deals. We deal with some wholesalers. We also have a couple of different programs that we run where we try to find our own deals and reach out directly to sellers. I mean, for example, actually on July 29th, we closed on a commercial property that we basically found offline, and we got that deal done. It has a total, I believe, of 8 different units, all office space, and that we actually purchased a seller financing. So minimal down payment, one of the most attractive rates that you probably can see. I mean, we're literally talking about the first year we have a 4.5% interest rate, which is completely unheard of. But these are some of the creative things we do behind the scenes. So it's just kind of like adding to the multiple ways we're trying to get deals. At some point in time, we did some mailers and stuff like that. We've probably scaled back because I think that's just a saturated part
Mhm.
to do that. And then some of the other steps that we're working on as we move forward is building more of a social media brand and things like that that we're working on. But we want to do it right from the beginning. So I think a lot of it is that you have to identify where you are and what stages you are, and then how are you going to now help yourself become or get to the next become better, but then basically get to the next step, and has to be a calculated move. You're not just in the beginning phase where you're doing one or two deals. You have to figure out, how do I maximize the money I'm going to spend to kind of get the marketing I need, or what's the next best thing for me to do to ensure I'm growing, and having a vision for that as well.
That's awesome. And you share so much tip, both of you guys, so I appreciate it. And one of the biggest things that I'm hearing from you is that timing is so important, especially for us as real estate agents. I do get a lot of off-market deals, and there's people that like, let me think about it for a day, 2 days, they're gone by the time that they're thinking about it. So you have to be quick. You have to know your numbers, and you got to work with the right person too that can help you make that decision. And sometimes people say, "Hey, I'm sure you guys get a lot of deals." Your job is to see, okay, if I sell this property, how much can I actually sell it for? It's hard if you're working with a wholesaler or another realtor that's going to tell you what the ARV is. So that's why you
Yep.
got to have the right tools so that you can run those numbers quickly. So thank you for sharing that. Now, is there any red flags that you look at when you're assessing a property to purchase for fix and flipping or for actually holding it and renting?
Yeah.
Absolutely. I think one of the red flags that we like to actually stay away from, like foundation issues. That's a pretty big ticket item. You know, foundation, could run you, like over 6 figures just to get it, to get this thing back, or
Mm.
fixing a cracked foundation, and another one is we do like to avoid certain area, like like flood zones. There are some good areas, like where like you could buy.
Yeah, so I mean, definitely what Pete's saying, but also I think part of it is trying to understand why somebody's selling a property, right? So most recently, I think probably about 2 months ago, Pete came across an awesome deal in Freeport. Uh, Price was very attractive. Come to find out, it was already owned by an investor, and the investor was willing to take a loss. After doing some recon before, we did kind of get a contract to our attorney and stuff like that. But as we did some of our own recon and called the town, we found out that the property was slated to be knocked down. They were not going to allow any type of work on there. But basically, someone else was willing to pass the buck and not be upfront and honest with someone else, but just to maybe lose $10,000, $15,000. So these are all the things that are out there, and again, it's not something that I can say, hey, listen, you can read this book and you'll have all the deals. You have to kind of go through the process, and that's probably another thing I would add with having a partner. It's just, you can kind of have quick conversations, and what do you think about this? Why do you think this is happening? And then it's kind of reminding each other, the more information we have, the more calculated um, calculated risk we can take, right? So that's like the biggest thing, because something like that, if we were able to go through it and we were locked into a contract, obviously we would have walked away from it, but we would have lost a significant amount on a down payment. Could have been 30, 40, 50, $60,000. But now you're going to be like, I'm not going to close the deal because I'm not going to go put a hard money or my private money lenders through this, knowing that I can't build this property, and at best I'll be losing a couple hundred grand, right? So it's just an example of how things can go. So these are some of the things that you got to look for red flags.
And the biggest red flag is not doing your due diligence. Because at the end of the day, from what
Yep.
I'm hearing from both of you guys, is do your due diligence, right? Go into the
Yep.
department building, check, are there violations? There's so many things that can happen. And I love what you both said. One of the things is that as in anything, right? Every single deal, whether it's a regular deal with a sale or a purchase, a regular one, or if it's an investment, every deal is so different. So for you guys to give me, like you said, the blueprint is very hard because it's going to be deal by deal, but you can avoid so many mistakes by doing your due diligence. I mean, there was a property that I was working with in Fulton and Brooklyn, and everything looked great. Yes, the house was a great deal, but there were so many violations, so many issues. The owner had tax liens that at the end of the day, he couldn't really sell it for the price because there just were so many violations, so many issues that were involved there. So the due diligence are important. Now, I do want to ask you guys, is there any advice that you will give to a first time investor that's looking to get into real estate and they just kind of don't know where to navigate, or if you can give them any tips to avoid any big issues or headaches that you guys probably could have avoided at the beginning if somebody would have told you.
Don't prepay a contractor. Do not give a deposit. Pay according to work, right? So that's definitely a tip. But then go ahead, Pete. You can add some more, and then I'll add some more afterwards as well. So no worries.
Oh yeah, absolutely. That was it $15,000?
That was a $15,000 college education on the street. So basically, that was one of the mistakes we made in the very beginning, where somebody started some work for us and they required a down payment to start, and we gave them $15,000, and basically they did 3 days of demo and they disappeared.
$15,000 later, they still don't
Yeah,
come here.
yeah, no. So yeah, they basically didn't do enough work. They just came and worked for 3 days and then they left. And then obviously there was nowhere for us to recoup the money. So definitely a red flag. Just stay away from that as a new person. Just make sure whoever you work with, they're gonna do. They're basically gonna show you what they're getting done, and then you pay them accordingly as you move forward with that contract. So yeah, that's definitely something. Um, I mean, another tip I would always say, try to learn as much as you can. In today's environment, there's a lot of social media, there's a lot of YouTube, there's a lot of books and stuff like that that's helping you with this. But one of the best things to do is really partner up with someone, and for a couple of reasons. It'll give you the experience you need to go out and get your own hard money, which helps you be a little bit more independent as you go down. But then it allows you to see some of the challenges and avoid the pitfalls that you're going to face, because it doesn't matter which project we bought. We can buy any particular house, and there's always going to be something that comes up along the way, whether it's faulty plumbing, faulty electric. You don't have x-ray vision, and even if you have an engineer report in every one of these properties, no one has x-ray vision. They can't see through everything. So you have to be prepared. So, if I can say, listen, whatever money you have, make sure you're willing to at least risk some of it if you're going to do this on your own. If you want to avoid some of that, you need to team up with a really good team and have them help you and show you the ropes as you move forward. And this is the way you can do it. And I would say at least try to do as much as you can. I would say at least 3 to 5 with working on somebody's team, and know that you're bringing something to the table to add value, or you're bringing some of the cash to say, hey, this is the reason I want to be here. And they have to show you the process. If they're not willing to show you the process, don't team up with them either, right? You want to see how they capitalize on the financing, how they write their scope of work, how they get their contractors, how they're monitoring their contractors. So you want to find people that are successful and learn from them. And then from there on, if you can make the decision, should I build my own team, should I find my own partner, or I can do it on my own, and then you can do it on a smaller level. So that'll be my advice.
Or come to Casa Latina Social, right? We have an event coming up
Definitely.
on August 14th. So going to these events that I'm holding that is just for investors, where my whole goal is to get you to partner up, whether it's with our sponsors, whether it's to partner up with already individuals that have done it. Your whole thing is get yourself in the room, and that's why I'm building that room for. So Pete, go ahead.
Yeah, one other thing I was gonna say, for a newbie too, you also have to try to mitigate your risks, right? Don't over leverage. An important things. And knowing, stick to your numbers. Don't get your feeling, on the deals. Stick to that number. Just knowing that you're buying this to make money, not to just have fun. Educate yourself.
And now that we're ending with that, I always ended with, what is one thing that nobody knows about you that you feel comfortable in sharing here so that we can get to know a little bit more about you?
Well, all right. So for me, it's I love to travel, but right now, well, so I've been to over 30 different countries around the world, right? So was one of my passions pre-kids, but now I have twins that are 4, and I have a son that's going to be 2 at the end of August. So it's a little different with traveling now, but definitely one of the things that I think helped me just see how big and small the world is at the same time, right? How unique people are and how similar we are on a large scale. So that's one of the things for me that I would say a lot of, like, obviously just having a discussion, unless we talk about travel, you would never really know. So it's definitely something I enjoy and definitely something most people don't know about me.
How about you, Pete?
For me, it's really with my daughters. Like I love having, I'm a girl's dad, so I love having time with my kids. I enjoy just being around them.
That's
That's
awesome. So I hear you guys both doing great things, family men, and working hard, obviously not only for yourself, but also to create the legacy within the family and to have that freedom to be with your family. Is there anything that I have not asked you guys that everyone should know before we disconnect?
No, I think for a beginning phase and kind of understand how this works, you kind of touched on most of it, right? So listen, it's just to resonate the fact that I think people should definitely educate themselves, mitigate your risk, and really try to partner with someone. It's better to walk the walk than just talk the talk, and then you make a mistake. Because these mistakes in the real estate, as much as it can be rewarding, it can be unforgiving. So just really be mindful. It's best to just try to keep that as a minimum as possible and learn from the people that are doing it, not the people that talk about it and just keep, but the people that can show you track records to say, Here are the things I do." And they also want to share with you, right? So you want to be around people that want to share with you, not people that are going to close you off just because they feel they can utilize your minimal resources now. So, yeah.
How about you, Pete? Anything you want to add to it?
No, Jay actually hit it. He hit it right in the middle. But definitely, starting off, if you have the time, finding someone that a mentor that can pretty much help you or guide you to this process is so crucial. You know, um, but absolutely, I think we pretty much hit it off.
Awesome. I do agree. And one of the things too that I do want people to know is that this is a business. A lot of people think that it's not. It's like a hobby. It's not. There's a lot of money that's involved with a lot of people that are involved. So you want to make sure that from making sure that the taxes are done correctly, that you're paying the right people, that you have the right people to make a deal. You can't just get a guy from Home Depot and expect that he's going to do the right work and that you're going to get paid from because a lot of people get, hard lending, and the hard lending does give you 100% of the work that's being done, but it's not automatically. So you definitely need to do your homework and learn. And that's why I have this channel here. Again, guys, thank you so much for being here. It's a pleasure. I appreciate your time and I appreciate all the information and all the knowledge that you guys both share. Thank you.